Hi guys, sorry there hasn't been any videos the last few days. Today I just managed to get around to doing one because I badly injured my finger. Playing cricket today, it's nothing but yeah. So yesterday, sorry about that. I was attempting a detox and it kind of worked. I didn't use my laptop for a while. But by while I mean pretty much, I don't know, I reduced it by a lot. So yeah. So today we're going to be reacting to the Cold War. It's something that India was involved in to a certain extent. But yes. We'll be reacting to that today. Cold War Part 1 by Oversimplified.
I've decided that in order to sell more merch, I should do a face reveal wearing some of it. So are you ready? Here we go. Boom. New minimalist
No, that's not it.
and Cold War merch available now, and get the new limited edition Churchill character pin before it sells out, with more characters coming in the future. Link in the description down below. The year is 1917. Fighting rages on the Eastern Front of the First.
In 1917, that year was basically what changed history for 100 years until the present, actually. You'll see why once they cover the rest of this.
World War. Both Germany and Russia are on the brink of collapse. Soldier, I need you to bring me this man.
Go Germany.
Got it. Found him, sir. What? No, not Lenin.
Yeah, not Lenin. This guy wasn't even alive during the time of the First World War. Lenin, Lenin. Lenin, the Russian communist who was exiled to Switzerland.
Lenin, the Russian communist. What? Why would I need a beetle? Lenin, the Russian communist. He was exiled to Switzerland. You know
exactly what I said.
what? I'll do it myself.
Capitalism. Okay, let's talk about this. Oh wait, what? Capitalism by Karl Marx. Okay. Karl Marx was a man who wrote the Communist Manifesto, which inspired many countries such as China, the Soviet Union, Cuba, Vietnam. It just inspired so many countries. Karl Marx writing that over a century after communism actually spread. So yeah, so Marx was, I'd say, a communist legend if you were a communist believer.
Who wants to start a revolution?
Yep.
The Germans put Lenin on a train and sent him all the way back to Russia, hoping he and his mates would create an internal crisis.
They created, I'd say, the worst internal crisis in a long time. I mean, literally. There were two revolutions in 1 year. He helped create a revolution where, well, he didn't help. His men kind of helped, but I don't think so. They helped the provincial government get power, but then they were exceeding the power limits of the dual power system, where the provincial government take care of the country, while the Soviet government would take care of the military and the food system, I think. So Lenin wanted all power to Soviets, and then so he basically had another revolution 9 months after the Tsar's revolution had ended, and which started the Russian Civil War, which is one of the bloodiest wars of the 20th century. And I'll just show it to you right now. Okay, so here it is. What wars were the deadliest wars of the 20th century? The three wars of the 1900s show the deadliest number of civilian and soldier fatalities were World War II, then World War I, then the Russian Civil War. It's, I'd say, the most overlooked war of the 20th century. I mean, the Korean War gets overshadowed. It overshadows the Russian Civil War. Then Vietnam overshadows the Russian Civil War. Then Afghanistan, when Soviets invaded, also overshadows it, but that was more deathly than any of them. So yeah.
internal crisis they did. The government was overthrown, and Lenin was in charge. He immediately pulled out of the First World War, made the country communist, started a 3-year-long civil war, got shot, broke the economy, caused...
Yeah, and the assassination attempt almost succeeded. He just survived it because one of the people, the person who assassinated him, did not like the idea. It looked like he was getting dictatorial powers, which he certainly was attempting to do. So since he was doing that, she was like, no, and I'm just gonna assassinate him, and yeah, but he just survived.
the famine, and
Wait.
communist, started a 3-year-long civil war, got shot, broke the economy, caused a famine.
Wait, oh, come on. Why can't I see that bit? Okay, yeah. So this, I believe, is the wrong border because this is the border which Poland has currently with Belarus, I believe. Belarus and Ukraine, this one. Shouldn't it be here? Because Poland had all of this. Like, yeah, and you can see current Polish borders. I mean, you can just see it. Look at this. That's the border with Lithuania, right there. Then border with Germany, right there. And you can actually see the world. Czech Republic's border here. Italy's border here. France is hard to see, but Germany easy. Look here. Here you can go up to Schleswig, come down here. I mean, yeah, countries, and that's why most countries have the borders with natural things. And you can see Finland, and you just don't recognize the border because after the Winter War, Finland's border cut to this. So yeah.
Famine, and then he died.
Yep.
On his deathbed, he said, "Hey man, tell whoever's in charge of giving people jobs not to let that jerk Stalin become the next leader."
And the person who was in charge of giving people jobs was Stalin. So Lenin just put him in the powerful position he needed to basically for him to win support and then take power after Lenin died.
By the way, who did I put in charge of giving people jobs?
Stalin.
That would be Stalin, sir. Stalin was...
Lenin's last words actually weren't that. His last words were good dog, since his dog had gotten him. I think it was a dead bird. So he just said good dog and then he died.
A rising force in the Communist Party. He still had some opponents, but conveniently, all of them were arrested or disappeared.
They didn't disappear, they were executed.
Was lucky. And so Stalin took over. He implemented his 5-year plans, which transformed the country from an agriculture-based economy to an industrial one. And like Lenin before him, he reigned with terror. Anyone who dared criticize or oppose him would either...
Okay, and now they have the border correct. So, yeah.
...be killed or left to rot in the horrendous Soviet work camps. Then a short man with a silly mustache tried to take over the world, punched the Russians...
Silly mustache. He wasn't short, actually. He was actually taller than Stalin and Churchill. Which is misconception why they call him short. But yeah, but Romania actually had annexed this again with Germany's support. See, Axis powers: Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, the puppets of Germany, Czech Republic, which are the puppets, and Poland. And then Germany itself and Italy. And the Allied powers: USSR, UK, and the USA, which is all the way over there. So they pushed him back to Moscow, which is here. But then they pushed him back to Berlin, which is here. So even Napoleon had pushed the Russians back to Moscow. They actually went slightly beyond Moscow. But yeah, they were pushed back again.
All the way to Moscow, and then the Russians, with some help from their faithful ally, the Winter, punched them all the way back to Berlin. At this point, being allies, America, the UK, and the Soviet Union were good chums.
Yeah.
They held a couple of conferences near the end of the war to...
Yeah, you might be like, wait a minute, shouldn't FDR be president during World War II? He was president from 1933 to 1945. I mean, what? Because like 12 years, and World War II ended in 1945. But he had died like a few months before the war ended, and then Truman took power.
Decide what would happen next. Hey, Stalin, after all your trials and tribulation, you must be pretty happy to be standing here in Berlin. Tsar Alexander made it all the way to...
Yeah, exactly what I just said. Napoleonic Wars, the Tsar of Russia, about a century before the revolution, made it to Paris, while only he made it to Berlin. That's what he's trying to tell.
Paris.
And also that he, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's just hard to describe it. That's a problem.
Hey, just give me a second. Hey, man, I think something's up with Stalin.
That's exactly
I know,
what I
right?
want.
What should we do? Shall I tell him about the bomb? Yeah, tell him about the bomb. That will...
Okay, so the bomb was basically the A bombs, which had dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I think it was Fat Man, and the other one was Slim Man. I don't know. Yeah.
Scare him. So, we got this crazy new big A-bomb that can destroy an entire city in one go. Yes, my spies told me already.
Yeah,
oh, wait,
that's exactly.
I meant to act surprised. Wow, that's amazing. He already knew. How?
Yeah.
Am I sure I want to send nuclear secrets via unsecure public coffee shop Wi-Fi? Am I ever?
What? There wasn't even Wi-Fi then.
Dude, use a VPN. And speaking of VPNs, yeah. Does the A stand for atomic or ass? Then America dropped their big A-bomb on Japan, and World War II officially came to an end. Hooray, we won! Okay, so now it's time to establish the New World Order. Stalin, you're in charge of Eastern Europe. Now, we want you to let them all hold elections. Oh yes, of course, elections. And these elections will be free and fair, right? Oh yeah.
Free and fair. Nope. Communist, 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 communist. All of the states were communist because that was the only option. So
Yes,
not free and
certainly, free and fair. Definitely free and fair. Communist, 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 communist. If that's not free and fair,
fair. Communist.
I don't know what is. Throughout Eastern Europe, Soviet puppet governments were established as a buffer zone between the USSR.
Yugoslavia and Albania wasn't really much of the puppet, but Yugoslavia and Albania were like loosened and then released after a few years, like a decade of rule. They were like released and given to the rest of Europe as a Western house.
And the West, with Churchill proclaiming an Iron Curtain had descended across the continent. The relationship between the old allies was deteriorating.
And when Churchill said that, I think he was in Missouri or Massachusetts. I think it was Missouri. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Fast. Over the next few years, the British intervened in the Greek Civil War to prevent a communist takeover. In Turkey, the Russians began demanding more control of Turkey's sea access routes, which prompted the US to send their largest battleship to Turkey for a friendly visit. After World War II, Iran was now occupied by both the Soviets and the British, with an agreement to both pull out once the war was over. The British pulled out. Stalin was like, you know what?
No.
I think I might stick around. All in favor of kicking Russia out of Iran?
Okay. So you might not know this about the UN. So there are 5 main members of the UN called the UN Security Council, which is modern day China, which at the time was ROC, the Republic of China, which is now Taiwan. Then now People's Republic of China. Then the UK, the US, and France. But it was also Soviet Union, not Russia came later after it collapsed, but yes. So the Soviet Union could veto anything. Like if they said something like, we want to let, what do I say? Yeah, we want to let Central Asia go to China's territory. Then they could just veto that. And then it wouldn't have ever happened. But the Soviet delegates, or Stalin, or I don't know who was there, they were not present at the conference, which allowed the UN to kick Russia off Iran.
You want to know something? You guys suck.
Yeah.
Pressure from the UN forced the Soviets to leave, and with the establishment of NATO, the Soviets had no doubt that the West was out to encircle and destroy them. And America announced the Truman Doctrine, in which they basically said, those guys are not cool, cannot be trusted, and we will do everything we can to prevent the spread of communism around the world. Many viewed this moment as the official declaration of the Cold War. Back in Europe, everyone was living in a post-apocalyptic void brought on by the Second World War.
Rat on stick boiled shoes. I mean, that's worse than anything I could imagine eating.
World War. Cities reduced to rubble,
Yep.
not enough food. It was terrible. This is great. The more they suffered, the more likely it is they'll turn to communism.
Yeah, you're tired.
Dude, you're really messed up. What's wrong with you? My father used to punish me severely.
I
America
will get to the Hitler video after this one, and then planning to do the American Civil War. Then I'll get to Hitler. So basically, this is like my father punished me severely. It's like something Hitler's father punished him severely. So
realized what was going on and
Yep.
quickly made a move. Under the Marshall Plan, they sent $12 billion to Western Europe for its economic recovery. The countries of Stalin's Eastern Bloc looked on with envy. Hey, Czechoslovakia, you want to come get some economic aid? Yeah, but I have to check with my mom first. Sorry, America. I can't come. This was a full-on economic battle raging between capital.
I mean, they shouldn't have even gotten East Berlin or Bulgaria, Yugoslavia or Albania, because I noticed a pattern that most of them were bordering Soviet. 4 out of the 8 were Soviet bordering states. And here you only need thing in Greece and Italy. But if you don't have this and these guys like are stay neutral, then you have more of a buffer zone. So they won't attack your puppets straight, they'll attack neutral countries.
Capitalism and communism in Europe. If the Western nations developed faster and better than the East, that would be a defeat for Stalin.
Yeah.
So he set up his own rival economic recovery plan,
Called
which he called
Comecon.
Comecon. And he also set up Common Form, which gave him more political control over the Eastern Bloc.
Yeah, a bit more independent, that's true.
But nowhere did this economic battle rage harder
Berlin.
than in the city of Berlin. Caught over 100 miles behind Soviet lines, the city had been divided up between the Allies, and the western segments were still under Western control. East Berliners could travel freely to West Berlin, see the economic prosperity and think, maybe this communism thing ain't so great after all. I'm gonna have fun tonight.
Let Stalin know that.
You're home late. Oh, Stalin. I was just out with my friends. Friends? You stink of capitalism! You're out engaging in imperialist debauchery again! I swear, Ivan, I can't keep doing this. Stalin wanted the West out, so he said, hey, guess what? I'm blockading all of your supply routes to West Berlin. What are you gonna do about it?
The Berlin Elf was crazy. It was a result, you might have heard of it. I'll show it right now, the Berlin airlift. Okay, so the Berlin blockade, basically a Berlin airlift. The Berlin blockade, June 24, 1940 to 12th May 1949, was on the first major international crisis of the Cold War. During the multinational occupation of post-World War II Germany, and the Soviet Union blocked the Western Allies' railway road and canal access to the sectors of Berlin under Western control. The Soviets offered to drop the blockade if Western Allies withdrew the newly introduced Deutschmark from West Berlin. Western Allies organized the Berlin airlift, also known as Berliner Luftbrücke, literally Berlin Air Bridge in German. And if anyone from Germany is watching this, I might be butchering the name, so please correct me. From 26 June 1940 to 30th September 1949. To carry supplies to the people of West Berlin, a difficult feat given the size of the city's population, American and British air forces flew over Berlin more than 250,000 times. That's the big number. Dropping necessities such as fuel and food, with the originally planned to lift 3,475 tons. That's how much they actually lifted. I mean, that's crazy. By spring of 1949. The number was met twofold. See? Peak daily average totaling 12,000 tons. Wow. Okay, let's go back to this.
I suppose we'll just fly the supplies in.
And this is no exaggeration with the Berlin airlift. I mean, that was like crazy because like as soon as one train took off, another one will land. And some would land like 2 or 3 at a time. I mean, that was crazy.
All right, Truman, you in this room.
Yep.
The Berlin airlift was an incredible undertaking
277,804 flights.
and a major success for the Western Allies.
0.3 million tons, which is huge.
And Stalin ended his blockade of West Berlin. His aggressive actions worried the West, but not as much as this did.
The Soviet A-bomb, they founded in 1950.
The Soviet Union had developed their very own atomic bomb. The USA no longer had a nuclear monopoly. The world now knew that if a major war broke out between the two superpowers, it would be more destructive than anyone could imagine. So it was comforting when Stalin came out and said that war between the Soviet Union and the West was
He didn't say unlikely, he said inevitable.
unlikely. Oh, wait, inevitable.
Yeah.
He said it was inevitable.
It wasn't
Hey,
confirmed.
you know who I haven't checked in on in a while?
China.
My good friend China. Whoa, what happened to you?
Yep.
What happened to them was a full-blown civil war that had been going on since 1927. The
Yeah, Mao's communists and the Republicans. Which
People's
is now
Liberation Army,
Taiwan.
under the leadership of Mao Zedong, successfully defeated the Republic of China, who fled to Taiwan. The now communist China and the Soviet Union signed a mutual defense treaty.
Wait. They forgot something.
In 1927, the People's Liberation Army, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, successfully defeaed the Republic of China, who fled to Taiwan. The now communist China and the Soviet Union.
Yeah, okay. Mongolia was communist too. It was like, so like these East Asian countries, Mongolia, China, Soviet Union, which had most of its territory in these, actually half of its territory in East Asia, which ends at the border of Mongolia, I think. Like East Asia is like this. So, yeah, kind of odd, but yeah. So yeah, Mongolia is also communist. There was a country here called Tanituva, which is like the craziest name ever. I'll show you exactly what it is. It was like something which is memed a lot. Yep, here you go. Tuvan People Republic. The Tuvan People Republic, also known as Tuva People's Republic, until 1926 was partially recognized by the Socialist Republic that existed between 1921 and 1944. In 1944, see, look at this. Yeah, it was annexed by, so the Qing actually had control of that, but then it was annexed by the USSR. So, yeah.
Signed a mutual defense treaty. This was terrible news for the West. But wait, there's more. After the Second World War, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel. In the north, the Soviets set up a communist regime. In the south, America set up an anti-communist regime. Both were led by very sweet-looking old men.
Yeah, and the thing people forget is that Korea also had a dictator. South Korea had a dictator, along with North Korea. Both had dictators, and people forget that.
But don't let that deceive you. They were both ruthless dictators, and both dreamed of reuniting Korea.
And at the time, South Korea wasn't considered best Korea. Actually, the North was considered best Korea until the 1970s. That's when it changed.
Under their own regime. Now that he had the bomb, Stalin was feeling a little more cocky, and he finally gave Kim permission to attack. The North launched a surprise invasion of the South on June 25, 1950. With Soviet aid, the North Koreans steamrolled through, taking Seoul in just 3 days and replacing one ruthless dictator with another.
Yep.
The UN were freaking out and quickly created an emergency force made up of troops.
Okay, let me see if I can identify all these flags. South Korea, US, Australia, Britain, Canada, Thailand, Turkey, Philippines, New Zealand, Ethiopia, which is called Abyssinia at the time, Greece, France, I believe that's Ecuador or Venezuela. I think that's Colombia. I don't know, I need to search. I think that's Colombia or Ecuador, I'm not sure. The Netherlands, that was the South Africa, Belgium, and I believe Hungary at the bottom.
From 16 countries to defend the South. The West still held Busan and made landings at Incheon near Seoul. They pushed the North Koreans out of Seoul, replacing the ruthless dictator that had replaced the first ruthless dictator with the same ruthless dictator that had previously been replaced by the new ruthless dictator. And the West then continued all the way up the Korean peninsula. At this point, China was getting worried that the UN may just keep going. The US had
China was getting worried. That's why they sent the 500,000 troops to Korea to help North Korea. And that's why China and North Korea are still close allies today.
sent this guy to lead the operation. After winning the Pacific Theater of World War II, General Douglas MacArthur's head was big and his balls were bigger. He reassured President Truman that there was absolutely no way at all that the Chinese would ever get involved. Meanwhile, 500,000 Chinese troops were crossing into Korea.
Exactly what I
Nuke 'em.
said.
No. Nuke 'em.
No.
No. Ah, come on.
The
You're
Soviets
fired.
had the
The US
bomb.
considered the nuclear option, but now that the Soviets also had the bomb, they didn't want to risk all-out global destruction. The communists pushed the West right back almost to the exact same spot they had all started from, and they ended up in a
And it was a net gain for South Korea. Because I didn't realize this at the time, but the North gained very little territory. Only this bit and this bit is all they gained. And while South Korea gained all of this. So South Korea is now way bigger than it once was.
stalemate, where they remained until both sides finally agreed to work towards a peace settlement in 2018. Back in America, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism.
true.
So they elected famed World War
Right,
II
D.
General
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, who is really hard to draw.
Yeah.
It's 1953. Hey, Stalin, how you doing? Oh,
He's dead.
he's dead. He had a cerebral hemorrhage and his reign of
Wait, what?
terror kinda came back
Okay, a bit of problem.
to bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
Because he had imprisoned all of his best doctors, and those that were left were too kinda came back to bite him in the ass. Because he had imprisoned
for
all of
some
his
reason
best
I can't
doctors,
hear.
and those that were left were how Stalin was imprisoned. Freed
Okay,
him.
wait.
The new
wait,
leader,
Pause.
Nikita Khrushchev, called a meeting
And that's all. Can't hear it.
and said, "Hey guys,
Okay. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So after 5 minutes, I've got to work again.
he's dead. He had a cerebral hemorrhage, and his reign of terror kinda came back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, reign of terror is always the double-edged sword.
Because he had imprisoned all of his best doctors, and those that were
Because when you reign with terror, you keep control of people, but when you're in a situation like Stalin, when you're almost dead, the people are afraid to help you.
left were too terrified to treat him.
Oh, come on. It stopped working again. Please enjoy. Definitely not poison food and drink.
In the ass because he had
Oh, great. 1 minute. Let me attempt this.
imprisoned all of his best.
Whoops. Not again. Why? Let's move here.
Was imprisoning him.
No. Come on. Why won't you work? Let me think about that.
Nikita Khrushchev. Hey guys, you know how Stalin was imprisoning and murdering us all for doing basic.
Okay, we're going back 5 seconds. I had to reduce my volume for some reason.
Imprisoned all of his best doctors, and those that were left were too terrified to treat him. The new leader, Nikita Khrushchev, called a meeting and said, "Hey guys, you know how Stalin was imprisoning and murdering us all for doing basically nothing? Yeah, he was kind of a jerk.
Yeah, and that was not taken well. I mean, people thought he was a god because of his reign of terror, so yeah.
I'm really not sure how this is news to you. Khrushchev went on a campaign of de-Stalinization. Statues of Stalin were taken down, Stalingrad was renamed, and Khrushchev announced that he wanted the Soviet people to be happy and would allow greater freedom in the Soviet Union. So
But they weren't really happy, so yeah.
how did that work out? Well, an uprising in East
Oh, okay.
Germany was brutally suppressed.
Yep.
A revolution in Hungary was brutally suppressed. And demonstrations in Poland were brutally suppressed.
But then the
Although
Polish
he
coughed
did
in.
finally allow some mild reforms.
Polish
Back in the
coughed.
Soviet Union, he permitted more cultural expression, but then began banning stuff based on his own personal taste. Modern art looks like a child urinated on a canvas. Banned.
Well,
Jazz
that
music
type
sounds like the
does.
feeling of needing to fart. Banned. Your poetry is really depressing. How could anyone in the Soviet Union be
I was so sad. Now I'm glad. Life is bad. Now I'm sad. Not depressing. It's actually kind of funny. So yeah.
depressed? You're banned. Khrushchev wanted the Soviet
What do you
people to
ban
be
us?
happy, but not like that. Or that.
That
Or that. Young people began enjoying abhorrent
I
Western
love
pop
the
culture.
West.
Son, remove that disgusting imperialist apparel at once. Shut up, Dad. You can't tell me what to do. Well, would you look at that? Turns out he can tell me what to do. The West had initially liked the cut of Khrushchev's jib, but world events soon soured relations even more. The two sides were spying on each other a whole lot throughout the Cold War. The KGB had spies and informants in nearly every
And this is Miss you. Oh, no, that's the spy from the KGB. So yeah.
aspect of Western life and government, so much so that whenever the US tried to send spies into the
Okay.
Soviet Union, the KGB were usually ready to arrest them on the spot. Members of the Manhattan Project aided the Soviet Union in acquiring the bomb. Some American officials believed they were on the wrong side. I'll sell you 3 secrets for $5 million.
$5 million for 3 secrets. I think that actually happened. I'm not sure about that. I need to check, but I'll check it later after the video. This is not real Soviet flags. So
Okay, go ahead. The Allies are digging a tunnel under East Berlin to tap
Yes,
your
that was true.
communications. There's an American agent living at this address in
I don't
Moscow.
know that
And
yet.
sometimes, when I'm home alone, I like to put on my wife's dresses, sit in the corner, and
Wow.
cry for hours. Very interesting.
That's one scene.
In America, fear took hold during the Red Scare and the
Yep, the McCarthyism was basically like the Salem witch trials of the 1600s. So basically, if your person knows the law at 7 in the morning, and you were in Salem witch trials, like, or a person like uses their bulls or moose to how do I say it, make some noise and use their farms in the morning, you can just say that they're a witch or a wizard or something, and then there's a high chance that they'll be in once the courts of Salem tried and maybe executed. So yeah.
McCarthy trials. American values imploded as fear of communism collided with freedom of thought and expression, and communist kind of became a buzzword thrown around to describe anything people didn't like. Hollywood? Communist.
Communist.
Your next door neighbor's dog?
Communist.
Communist. When the grocery store cashier
Wait. Let's go back.
like Hollywood? Communist.
Not on my watch.
Your next door neighbor's dog? Communist.
Nuh-uh.
When the grocery store cashier asks if you need a bag when you clearly can't carry 10 tubs of baconaise in your
What? Okay, maybe you can if you had more pockets, but yeah.
hands, communist.
Communist.
But one
I don't think so, sister.
area in particular where the US had an edge over the Soviet Union was in its espionage technology.
Yep,
In
that
particular,
worked.
U-2 spy planes flew across Russia carrying out
guys,
surveillance
I'm
from the
Baker.
skies. There was a nasty incident in 1960 though, when one was shot down and Khrushchev was furious. Who the hell is this? He's a high-altitude weather enthusiast who flew off course.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
that
I
sounds
think what he
plausible.
said.
Wait a minute. Why does he have a gun and a poison needle? Because
Yeah, I mean that's what threw him away. I think Eisenhower said that he was a high-altitude weather enthusiast, but he found a gun in the poison needle. So yeah.
he's a very naughty high-altitude weather
he didn't say
enthusiast.
that.
But much to America's concern, the Soviet Union appeared to be ahead in the
Whoa! Where's Alaska for America? I mean,
space race.
Yep,
Everyone
that's-
freaked out when Russia launched the world's first
yeah, Sputnik was launched even before the 1960s. I mean, that's how old the first satellite was. So that's just crazy. Then they launched the first man to space, and then the first dog into space, and yeah.
satellite. And then they actually sent a man into space. Even worse, there also appeared to be a missile gap in the Soviets'
Yeah.
favor. And Khrushchev was so confident that he even allowed the US to set up a technology exhibit in Moscow, attended by a certain Vice President Richard Nixon.
Yeah, he was the vice president. Sorry, he was the vice president for Dwight D. Eisenhower. Then he just barely lost the election to Kennedy, and then he had to wait 8 years after his vice presidency to finally become president.
Check this out. We have color TV. Yes,
they
but
do.
we've been to space and can obliterate you with our massive nuclear arsenal.
Yep.
Check out this vegetable peeler.
What?
Tensions increased further when both sides upgraded their atomic bombs to hydrogen bombs.
Yeah, hydrogen bombs are much more powerful. Like they're like 10, 20 times more powerful than atomic bombs.
And after West Germany was allowed to join NATO in 1955, Khrushchev set up the Defensive Warsaw Pact, strengthening the military ties between the Soviet Union and its satellite states. In 1960, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism, so they elected John F. Kennedy. The Soviet Union was
Yeah, but
advancing
they barely elected him. I mean, Nixon was also pretty close. So, yeah.
its technology, but it was also bleeding its coffers dry, and all of the money was going towards the military, not the people. Life under communism was still as hard as ever, and Berlin remained a thorn in the Soviet side. The contrast between the economically prosperous West and the struggling East was clearer day by day, and East Berliners were still able to freely travel to the West, Now, many of them were deciding to stay there. Millions defected to West Germany via West Berlin, causing Eastern factories to lose workers and taking a heavy toll on the economy.
Or
Soviet
economic
leaders
downturn.
decided this couldn't continue any longer. First, Khrushchev tried this: leave West Berlin or else. Or else what?
Yeah, and Khrushchev built the Berlin Wall, which we all know today. I mean, yeah. So we see Stalin as the worst of the two. But then it was actually Khrushchev who built the Berlin Wall. So that's like something odd amongst that. But yeah, that's true.
Or else, I'll be really mad at you. Yeah, no, we're gonna stay. Listen, man, West Berlin is ours, East Berlin is yours.
Ours.
That's just how it is. Kennedy felt pretty good about his show of American resolve. But
Yep,
wait a
I'm
second,
so
did you
cool.
catch that? Let's replay it.
East Berlin is
Yep.
yours.
That's exactly what
Uh-oh,
the
Kennedy
Berlin
just told
Wall.
Khrushchev that the USA wouldn't interfere in what the Soviets did.
Almost like 5 feet wide or something, 2 feet, 3 feet, somewhere there. So he just built it like 2 feet. Sorry, 2 feet between, like he built the wall like the same width away from the border. So just at the border, the Berlin Wall was built.
With their section of Berlin. So Khrushchev came up with
Yep.
a new idea. We're gonna build a wall, and it's gonna be a big, beautiful wall, and it's gonna keep out all the Mexicans.
Keep No, there are no Mexicans here, only Eastern Europeans and Russians and Soviets, communists, whatever.
Just say that's wrong, it's gonna keep in these Berliners. Oh,
Yeah, he just said, sir, it's gonna keep in the East Berliners.
sorry, it's gonna keep in all the Mexicans.
Come on, Khrushchev.
On August 13th, 1961, Berliners woke up to
Yep.
find their city divided into two, with barbed wire and guards blocking the border between East and West. Over time, a wall was constructed throughout the city. Families were torn apart. Thousands would risk their lives escaping
Yeah.
over the wall, and
And this was the section of West, and this is East. So if this was East, that was West. The wall would have made no sense. I mean, you could just jump down. It was like 8, 9 feet high. You could just get a ladder and climb up. I mean, yeah.
hundreds would die trying.
Yeah,
To the
hundreds
despair of
died.
Berliners, the West were unable to do anything about it, but the wall did put on full display the failure of the communist
Yeah.
system. As Kennedy said, democracy is not perfect, but we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in.
Yeah.
As part of the agreement between the two sides, US diplomats were still allowed to travel to East Berlin, but suddenly, East Berlin crossing guards started giving them the business, and Kennedy was like, nah-uh. In October, the US rolled tanks up to the crossing point at Checkpoint Charlie as a show of strength. The Soviets did the same, and the two were in a standoff. They stayed like that for 16
Yeah,
hours,
that
and the
was
world
long.
braced for nuclear Armageddon. Thankfully, though, Kennedy called Khrushchev directly and was like, hey man, this is getting way too hot. How about you back your tanks up by an inch and we'll do the same? Sounds good. Okay, how about you back your tanks
Yeah, and they actually backed their tanks by an inch or a foot. I'm not sure, but they backed it slowly. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I feel if this was done at night, the men would have slept in their tanks for some time, but yeah.
up by another inch and we'll follow suit? Alright, hey, you want to do another inch? And they both very slowly
Whoa, Kennedy. He's in Moscow, you're in Washington. It should be midnight for him when it's day for you, I mean. Yeah.
inched away from the apocalypse. Phew, let's hope that's the biggest crisis of my presidency.
Nope.
It wasn't.
Okay, so that's it for today. I feel I've been talking and watching this for over half an hour. So yeah, so that's it for today. And yeah, so that was fun thing. So in my next series, you look at Oversimplified. I'll leave the link to the channel in the description. Please tell me which video you want, which I haven't already done. All the ones which I've done are the football wars, the Falklands, then the Emu War, Battle of Hastings, the American Revolution, World War One, World War Two. Yeah, so I was thinking of doing after this series. I'm going to do part 2 tomorrow. After the series, I was planning to do. I'm planning to do Hitler day after. I'm purposely not saying it the way it's supposed to be said, otherwise my video will get demonetized. But yeah, so thanks for watching and bye.